She found the camera inside a textbook that wasn't hers. Vivian Hargrove is black, beautiful, and precise. An AP English literature teacher and college counseling specialist at one of Manhattan's most prestigious preparatory academies. She has spent 12 years opening doors for other people's children. She knows how to read a room. She knows how to read a person. What she didn't know, on the Thursday she reached past her reference shelf and recognized a pinhole lens buried in a book's spine, was that a man with a koi fish tattoo climbing his neck had been watching her for weeks. Do-yoon Seo, known to those who know enough to be afraid of him as Snow Wolf, runs more than private equity. He runs a syndicate. He runs surveillance operations. And he had placed a camera in Vivian's room, not because he was watching her, but because he was watching his son. Jae-in Seo came to Vivian for LSAT tutoring. He left with something that belonged to her, something she hadn't given him. And when she found out what he'd taken and what he'd used it for, she made a decision, a very precise decision. The kind only a woman who has been underestimated her entire professional life knows how to make. What happened next didn't just cancel a wedding. It ended an empire's plan. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. The notification came on a Tuesday. Not a call, a text, 4 words from her sister. The check didn't clear. Vivian Hargrove read it standing in the copy room at Ashbrook Preparatory Academy with 30 pages of student essays warm in her hands and did not move for a moment that felt longer than it was. She put the essays under her arm and went back to her classroom and sat at her desk and ran the numbers in her head, because she had memorized them the way other people memorize train schedules. The dialysis center, $940 a month. Danny's tuition at Howard, $2,100, due the 15th. Her rent on the Harlem apartment, $1,780. Her own salary, after taxes, $4,300. She had been running these numbers for 11 months. She knew exactly where the gap was. She had found out about the spring admissions panel that same morning, not from Walter Goss, but from the updated faculty schedule posted in the main corridor. Her name was gone. A younger colleague's name was in its place, a woman Vivian had mentored for 2 years, which made it worse in a way she could not precisely explain and did not try. She walked past the board twice, the second time to confirm she had read it correctly. Goss had not told her. He had not emailed. He had simply removed her. The call came that afternoon. A private number, a man's voice, clipped and careful, who introduced himself as the attorney for the Seo family. His client's son was enrolled at Columbia and preparing for the June LSAT. He was looking for a specialist. He had been referred to her by name. Double her standard rate, twice weekly, prep room at Ashbrook in the evenings. A 6-month retainer. She said yes before the man had finished speaking, and then sat in her car in the Ashbrook parking garage and called Danny and told her the check was being reissued and said nothing about the panel. Jae-in Seo arrived the following Monday at 6 in the evening, carrying a tote bag with a Columbia Law preview guide he'd never opened, and a confidence that filled whatever room he walked into before his intelligence could catch up. He was 23. He was polite the way people are polite when they are accustomed to being liked. He sat across from Vivian, put his phone face down on the desk, and said he'd been told she was the best. She said she'd been told he needed to be. He smiled. It was a disarming smile. She noted it the way she noted the unread guide in his bag and moved on. 8 weeks passed. He was not the strongest reader she had worked with, but he was quick where it mattered. Pattern recognition, elimination, logic, the kind of applied reasoning that can be trained if the student is willing to be uncomfortable. He was sometimes willing. He improved. She began to relax into the sessions, and that was her first mistake. The Thursday that changed everything was cold. February, the kind that turns to sleet around 7. Jae-in was working through an analytical reasoning set, and Vivian reached past the reference shelf to retrieve her grammar guide. Her fingers found the spine of an LSAT prep book that was not hers. She knew her shelf the way she knew her classroom, by position and weight without looking. She pulled it forward and recognized, in the gap where the pages met the binding, the circular aperture of a pinhole camera lens. She knew what she was looking at. She had seen a dozen of them at the Advocacy Center, tucked into smoke detectors and clock radios and book spines. This one was precise, well-placed, aimed at her desk chair. Her hands went still. She put the book back in its place on the shelf. Jae-in looked up. "Everything okay?" "Fine," she said. "Wrong book?" She sat back down and looked at him, at his forehead where it creased slightly over a difficult question, at his pen moving across scratch paper, at his wrist where his expensive watch caught the desk lamp. She watched him for the remaining 40 minutes, and he never looked at the shelf. Not once, and that told her something she was not yet ready to name. She said goodnight at 8. She waited until she heard the elevator close. She sat alone in the room with the lamp on and the book on the shelf and did not move for a long time. Then she took out her phone and opened her notes app and began to write down exactly what she had seen, including the make and placement. And the fact that the book had not been there at the start of the semester. She noted the time, she noted the date. She locked the note and went home. She did not sleep. She lay in her apartment in Harlem with the city doing what the city does at midnight and thought about the 14 possible explanations for a hidden camera in her prep room. And by 4 in the morning she had eliminated 13 of them. The remaining one was the one she did not want. She called the Advocacy Center's network the next morning and asked for a referral to a digital forensics consultant, someone discreet, someone credentialed. She paid for the consultation out of her own account, $480, which she transferred from the emergency fund she had been building for the past 2 years and had never touched. The consultant met her at a midtown coffee shop the following Saturday. He was methodical and soft-spoken, and he asked her to describe every device she used in the tutoring sessions and whether she had noticed any unusual activity on her school-issued accounts. She had not. He told her to pull her login history. She pulled it on her phone, sitting across from him at the table, and they looked at it together. There were 7 access events she had not initiated, all from a device she did not recognize, all between 5:15 and 5:55 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 15 minutes before each session began. The device was registered to a Columbia University dormitory account, her letterhead templates, her credentials PDF, her electronic signature file. The consultant put his coffee down. He asked if she wanted to know what they were used for, or if she wanted to stop here. She said she wanted to know everything. He found the USCIS filing 3 days later, an F1 visa extension application for one Yoon Baek, currently enrolled in the NYU Stern MBA program, supported by a formal letter of academic sponsorship, a letter bearing Vivian Hargrove's full credentials, her institutional affiliation, her electronic signature, and her statement that she was serving as Ms. Baek's academic supervisor for an independent research study in applied rhetoric. Vivian had never met Yoon Baek. She had never written that letter. Her name was on it. Her signature was on it. And if anyone from Immigration Enforcement sent a verification inquiry to Ashbrook Preparatory Academy and Vivian could not explain it, she would lose her license before she could explain anything. She sat in her car in the parking garage and held her phone in both hands and breathed. In the copy room 11 years ago, She had sat very still and run very precise numbers. She did the same thing now. If she said nothing, she was complicit. If she went to the school, she needed evidence that it was not her. The forensic report was the evidence. She had the login history. She had the camera documentation. She had dates and timestamps. She had everything she needed, and for a moment she actually believed that was enough. She was wrong about that, but she didn't know it yet. The FOIA request took 9 days. She filed it herself, using the instructions from the immigration attorney's public website, and when the documents arrived in her email, she opened them at her kitchen table at 11 at night with a cup of cold tea. She expected to find a shadow, a constructed girl, a name attached to a scheme. Instead, she found a real one. Yoonji Bak's file was full of substance, a genuine scholarship from the Bak Group Foundation, a thesis proposal on cross-cultural negotiation frameworks, a letter of support from her actual NYU advisor that was entirely legitimate. Her grades were real. Her research was real. She had not asked Jae-in to do this for her. She had not known. Whatever Jae-in had filed in Vivian's name, Yoonji was not part of it. She was simply the name at the top of the form. Vivian went through the supporting documents a second time. She was halfway through when she found the maintenance log timestamp buried in the school's document archive. She had pulled it weeks earlier as part of the camera documentation and had not looked at it carefully. The prep room's reference shelf had been accessed by a facilities contractor 9 weeks before the tutoring sessions with Jae-in had begun. The book had been placed on her shelf before Jae-in had ever sat across from her. She read the date twice. She read it a third time. Then she set the document down on the table and looked at the wall. Do-yoon Seo had installed the camera before his son started coming to her room. He had been watching his son. He already suspected what Jae-in was capable of. Vivian was not the target of the surveillance. She was the location, and the man she had been afraid of. The man she'd looked up online and found pictures of in the financial pages. The man with the controlled face and the koi fish ascending his neck, had been watching her room because he did not trust his own son in it. She sat with that for a long time. Then she closed the documents and called the compliance officer at Ashbrook and asked to make an appointment. The meeting was a Thursday. She brought printed copies of everything: the FOIA filing, the forensic report, the login history, the camera documentation, the maintenance log timestamp. She laid them on the conference room table in the order she had rehearsed. The compliance officer, a careful woman named Dr. Patricia Serrano, listened without interrupting. She asked 2 questions. She said she would need to bring the materials to the review board. She said it was a serious matter and that Vivian had done the right thing. Walter Goss was on the review board. His memo arrived in Vivian's inbox 47 hours later. It was 4 paragraphs. The first established that she had accepted a tutoring contract at an unusually high rate from the family in question. The second noted that the digital forensics consultant she had retained was not affiliated with any institution Ashbrook recognized, and that therefore the chain of evidence could not be treated as reliable. The third suggested that her voluntary disclosure was consistent with a party seeking to preempt an investigation rather than cooperate with one. The fourth paragraph informed her that she was being placed on paid administrative leave pending a full internal review, and that her building access would be suspended effective immediately. She read it sitting at her kitchen table. She did not print it. She sat there until the room got dark, and she noticed she hadn't turned a light on. Her phone rang. It was the Howard University bursar's office, automated. A reminder that a payment was 22 days past due, and that Danny's enrollment was at risk of suspension for the spring semester. She listened to the entire message. She hung up. She sat in the dark. She called Danny at 9. Her sister picked up on the first ring and said, Viv in the voice she only used when she already knew something was wrong. Vivian said she just wanted to hear her voice. They talked for 40 minutes about nothing. About a professor Danny liked, about a coffee shop near campus, about their mother's favorite television program from childhood. Vivian did not mention the leave. She did not mention Goss's memo. She said goodnight and put the phone face down on the table and sat in the dark for a while longer. The envelope arrived on a Friday morning, not delivered through the mail slot. Her buzzer had rung at 7, an unfamiliar voice, a single word, package. She had come down in her coat and found a man in a dark navy bomber jacket standing in the vestibule with his hands at his sides and no expression she could name. He held a matte black envelope. He put it in her hands. He left. She did not go after him. She sat at her kitchen table and opened it. Inside was a USB drive, matte black, no label, and a card. The card was plain white, no logo. 4 words in English, handwritten in a deliberate, careful script. Everything you need, SW. She plugged the drive into her laptop. She had to force herself to breathe slowly. The first folder contained 8 weeks of surveillance footage. Every tutoring session with Jae-in from the angle she had known about. Timestamps, clear audio, and there, 8 weeks in, the Thursday in February, she watched herself reach for the shelf, go still, replace the book, sit back down, and never touch her computer again for the remainder of the evening. The footage showed exactly what she had done and exactly when she had done it. It showed her discovering the fraud and stopping. Not participating, stopping. The second folder contained footage from an angle she had never seen. A second camera, positioned near the whiteboard, aimed at her desk from the other side. It had been placed there before the sessions began. The footage showed Jae-in arriving 15 minutes before their first session, logging into her computer using her password, which he had read over her shoulder during a session the previous week. She could see the moment clearly now, his eyes moving to her keyboard as she typed, and navigating directly to her institutional files. Letterhead, credentials, signature. She watched him download each one with the focused efficiency of someone who had done his research. The footage showed her what she had already deduced, but seeing it made it different, made it exact, made it a thing she could give to someone else. She forwarded both folders to the immigration attorney. She forwarded them to Ashbrook's legal counsel with a formal letter that she wrote in 40 minutes and did not revise. Then she sat back and thought about 4 words handwritten on a plain white card, and about a man she had looked up online. The composed face, the precise hands, the koi fish on his neck, and she understood for the first time what it meant that he had been watching his own son. Do-yoon Seo had not sent the drive to protect her. He had sent it because using it was the only way to do what he had been unwilling to do himself. End the thing his son had become before it ended the family. The wedding, the strategic alliance, the 3 years of engineering. He had handed her the instrument. He had known she would use it. The Bake family received the forwarded file the next morning. By afternoon, the engagement had been publicly withdrawn. The wedding was cancelled. Jae-in's federal inquiry began the following week. The internal investigation at Ashbrook closed 14 days later. Vivian's leave was rescinded. Walter Goss received a formal reprimand and was removed from the Compliance Review Board. She returned to her classroom on a Tuesday morning, wrote a list of essay topics on the board, and taught for 6 hours without stopping. A week later, she arrived before her first class and found a single white chrysanthemum on her desk. No note, no card. The bloom was fresh, the stem cut clean. She stood looking at it for a moment, then put it in the water glass. She kept for her pens and set it at the corner of her desk, where the morning light came through. She sat down. She opened her gradebook. She taught her morning class. Outside, Manhattan moved the way Manhattan always moved. Indifferent, enormous, full of arrangements she would never see. Somewhere in it, a man in a dark suit sat in a room with a view he no longer looked at, and a sun he could not reach, and a plan that was finished. She did not think about him. She had papers to return. She returned them 12 years. 12 years of opening doors for other people's children, of knowing exactly how to read a room, how to read a person, how to position someone else for the opportunity they couldn't see themselves, how to run the numbers, the dialysis center, the tuition, the rent, precisely without letting it show, how to absorb difficulty without breaking, how to return to the classroom the morning after the worst night and write the day's topics on the board and teach for 6 hours without stopping. She knew how to do all of that. What she didn't know, what nobody built a system for, was how to do any of that for herself. She had papers to return. She returned them. And then, one Tuesday morning, she arrived before her first class and found a single white chrysanthemum on her desk. No note, no card. The bloom was fresh, the stem cut clean. She put it in the water glass she kept for her pens and set it in the corner where the morning light came through. Something left specifically for her. For once. Maybe you know what that feels like? To be the person who always shows up, always carries the weight, always knows exactly what everyone else needs, and to move through your entire day without anyone asking what you need, without anything built specifically for you. The beauty industry has been running those same numbers on Black women for decades, and every time it left you off the ledger. The formulas weren't yours. The routines weren't built for your skin. The ingredients weren't chosen for your melanin, your hormones, your biology after 45. Here is something Korean beauty culture understood that the rest of the world didn't. Chrysanthemum. The same bloom Vivian found on her desk that Tuesday morning has been used in Korean skincare and botanical medicine for centuries. Its compound luteolin directly calms the inflammatory pathway that causes hyperpigmentation in melanin-rich skin. Korean women have been drinking chrysanthemum tea every afternoon for generations, precisely because they understood that beauty is not a product. It's a practice, a ritual, a system built deliberately with your specific biology in mind. Korean Glass Skin Secrets for Black Queens 45 Plus is that system, built specifically for the woman who has been running everyone else's numbers while her own skin waited. AM and PM routines rooted in K-beauty science, the 15 Korean star ingredients that actually work for mature, melanin-rich skin. Glass hair rituals for type 4 hair, a complete jjimjilbang home spa, and 12 Korean botanical teas, including chrysanthemum, that glow you from the inside out. No note required. Scan the QR code on your screen, or find the link in the description, or check the pinned comment. You've spent 12 years opening doors for everyone else. This one's yours. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever had someone take something from you, your name, your reputation, your work, and use it as if it were theirs to spend? Did you stay silent to survive, or did you speak, even when speaking cost you everything first? And have you ever found yourself being used by a powerful person to do what they couldn't do themselves, only to realize, too late or just in time, that you were always the one with the real power? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about integrity, surveillance, and justice, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.